Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the Nature Journal workshop. Today is going to be a very useful workshop. We're going to take a look at how do we kind of block out any mammal. And so I'm using two mammals as examples today, the coyote and the raccoon. Both of these in North America are urban mammals that we bump into on a regular basis. But even if you're not in an area where raccoons and coyotes are found, this is going to be useful because the strategies, because we've got two, we're doing two at the same time. Because we've got a comparison between them, you're going to be able to see how you would kind of block in the structural differences between those two critters. And so I think you're going to find this is a useful way of looking at these animals. I'm going to start by just kind of blocking out a few of my general ideas about drawing these critters. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to jump over to a share screen. We'll draw on top of some photographs, and then we'll look at how you would, what that means kind of putting it onto a real piece of paper with a pencil. So here's the strategy. Here's the spoiler. This is what I'm going to be teaching you folks. We're going to start by looking at actually I'm going to jump to my big share screen here. There we are. What we're going to do is we're going to start by looking at the body of the critter and getting its basic proportions in. I want to get a sense of how big its body is relative to its neck, relative to its head, relative to its legs. So there are going to be some very simple lines, the line of the back, the line of the belly, the line of the ground, kind of blocking in the width of the body and the length of the legs. Those are going to be our first lines. And you're also going to get a sense of how, if you're drawing a live animal in the field and it's moving around, how does that kind of relate to your first line that you get down on the paper? We're going to do that for raccoon, and we're going to do that for the coyote. Then what I'm going to do is show you how I would think about blocking in the major masses of the critter's body. And there are some very interesting differences that you're going to see between how the proportions that you're seeing on the coyote and on the raccoon. Then we're going to jump over to the document camera, and we will, oops, you okay? And we will be sketching, you'll be sketching along, so you'll be able to see the photographs that I'm working from, and then you're going to be able to see the drawings that I'm doing. It'll be fun. If there's extra time at the end, we'll take a closer look at the face of the raccoon and those cool patterns. All right, we're going. Here we go. I am going to change this view for myself, and I'm going to share a screen. There we are. Oh, actually, no, I don't want, this is what I want to do for now. And we'll hit play. There we are. And I'm going to hide these meeting controls. There I go. Oh, hold on a second. I actually need to escape out of this because I'm kind of flying alone today here, and I'm forgetting to do all of my behind the scenes Zoom things that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm forgetting to admit everybody. Hey, everybody who's been waiting in the waiting room. I forgot that you were there. I'm really, really sorry to keep all of you waiting in there. Let me disable the waiting room. Disable the waiting room. And so if you're just joining us, we're about to jump over to a screen where we're going to be looking at differences between coyotes and raccoons. Even if you don't live in an area where there are coyotes and raccoons, this is going to be a useful comparison because they've got very different body forms. but the same mammalian similarities are there. So we'll look at how, with two really different shaped critters, how we would go about blocking those on paper, and also help us to sort of note the general proportions between them. So let's see now. I want to share my screen. I still want to share my screen. Ah, here we go. There we are. And that's our raccoon on the top left. That's our coyote on the bottom right. But you already knew that. Take a quick look at these, and for yourself, I'd like everybody to say out loud please say out loud the differences in the proportions of these animals that you see. All right? So wherever you are, let's say out loud the differences in the proportions that you see.
They have different backgrounds.
So proportions, by proportions, I mean the sizes of the parts of their bodies.
Oh, the coyotes' legs are longer.
Very good point. So longer legs on those coyotes.
Longer nose.
Longer nose on that coyote.
Bigger ears.
Big, oh yeah. Give me more, What else do you see? Mia, can you add any?
More of the point at the tail.
Pointy tail versus a rounded tail.
No mask.
Yep. So let's block this in. I'm going to show you folks.
The footy part.
Oh, yeah, the hind footy part. So look at the sort of here's this hind footy part, sort of the bends in the legs really kind of prominent there. Shorter hind footy part on this raccoon. Yeah, so there are parts that are sort of proportionally smaller. I'm going to just drop over here for just a second, then I'll give you this place back behind the tablet, okay? So Amelia, you might want to get in so you can see this too. All right. I am going to hit escape. I'm going to hit the annotate, and I'm going to draw. All right. When I am drawing these critters, and when I'm looking at them out in the field, one of the first things that I pay attention to is just the line right along their back. So you see that line just kind of pretty flat there in that coyote. And if something is moving, yeah, you might want to just draw that on your page too. Yeah, that's right. Amelia's saying so rounder back. So the raccoon just has this big dome back. So if you're drawing something out in the field, this first line I find really helpful. You know, if there's a chipmunk and it's sort of sitting there, you know, chewing on something, I might get a line like that. If there's a weasel that's moving, I might get kind of a line like that. You get different, there's a deer grazing, I get a line like that. So different critters, different poses, you're going to get that line of the back is going to be a different shape. And in these, it's really, really useful because you're actually getting something really kind of interesting and structural about these. The raccoon always has this big kind of bumped back look. It's kind of set up sort of Stegosaurus style with the big back legs and these small front legs. That's my first line. Then what I do is I say to myself, like, all right, if that is the line of the back, how deep is the belly? How far down does the belly of this go? And I'm lightly with my non-photo blue pencil. You might want to kind of block these lines in too, Carolina. I'm going to block these in. You don't want really these lines to come forward too much, and you have to be something that you erase later on. And then I'm going to put in how far down the level of the ground is. So this is where Carolyn mentioned that this has short legs. This is where kind of the observations about the leg length come. So rather than initially drawing in the legs, I'm just putting a line in to show me how far down those legs are. And to do this, I first actually have to get the depth of the body, because I'm doing it relative to this depth of the body, relative to this distance here, right? How far down is that ground going to be? So let's just draw this off on the side. Let's say my little original line is here. I can't draw in, I don't want to then draw in the ground. I want to first, just kind of get that line of the body, because I'm really looking at this distance compared to this distance, right? That distance compared to that distance. And that's going to give me how far down that ground goes. Now, I am going to block in my body. And what I'm going to do is the pieces that I'm going to use to do this are for the shoulder area of the critter, which we're not seeing too articulated in here, but we're going to sort of imagine that we can see it. So by the shoulder area, I'm talking about this whole zone in here. What I'm going to do is I am going to put in, my basic shape for that is a keystone. So keystone meaning smaller at one end, larger on the other. And then for my body, there's going to be, you can think of it as a cylinder, or if you're just starting out, it might be helpful just to sort of think of this as a tube. You're kind of looking at a flat, sort of a rectangle in the middle of the body. But as you get more advanced and these become three-dimensional shapes, this will eventually become a cylinder. And then on the back end of the body, there's another keystone. But this other keystone, I'm going to switch colors here so that it's not confused with those other lines. The keystone on the back is big on top and small on the bottom. So this is my basic mammal shape of my body. I have a keystone at the front that is big on the bottom and small on the top. And this I want, and notice that this is kind of, this one is tilted up. That's the way you're going to want to do it. You're going to want this slope tilting up. So I'm not doing it this way. I'm not saying that you have a little cylinder in the middle of the body and there is something with a larger end down here on the bottom and a larger end on top here. I've got this keystone here and this keystone here. They are tilted. So that means I've got my general body shape, general body in there, and my on the front, I have that keystone there, and I have the keystone pointing the opposite direction on the back side. Let's put these in, and then we'll put on other features like our neck and our head. So on the front of this, so the front edge of this keystone is this slope here. It is from here's the elbow of the critter. So you're going to go to the front of the elbow. You're going up at an angle, and that is giving you a keystone that is in here. The keystone in the back is we've got an angle. So notice that the rump is down at a slight angle here. And then you have your body in the middle. Let's put that on the little raccoon there. So for the raccoon, it's got an elbow here. All right, actually, I can bring this back to the elbow. Actually, I'll bring this back to the elbow. So I'm going to go take this sort of elbow area here, up in here. So here's my front keystone. I have my back keystone. This one's taking a big step forward. So this back keystone is really angled forward. And then in the middle of my body, I have the middle of my body. So I do the same thing when I'm drawing a deer. If I'm drawing a deer, I will have the back of my body. I will have how deep down the belly is. I'll have how far down the ground is. I will then have a keystone in the front. I'll have a belly. I'll have keystone in the back. And then the legs are over, the neck is going to pop into this surface here. The legs are going to pop out the bottom of this and off this bottom corner up here. So we want to kind of go from the back. I actually should be a little bit more clear about this. On this front keystone, let's go, bring that. I didn't really do that very clearly here. I want to bring it from, I'm going to change to green up here on the shoulder. I'm going to go to the back corner of the elbow, then up from there. And that's what I'm doing. There. Now, let's take a look at the legs that are dangling down below this. The legs are going to, the closer you are to the body, the thicker they are. So you've got thicker up in here and skinnier down in here. You have thicker up in here, you have skinnier down in here. What I want to do is to notice where the joints are in these legs and the general positions of the legs. The back legs are going to be a backwards facing V, an arrow pointing in this direction. And what you want to notice is where the joint is in that. Where the joint is in that. That's the heel. That is the coyote's heel, there and there. Its knee is right up here against the body, the corner of that upper keystone. Let's take a look on the forelegs. Its joint is down here. And so back legs are a bent arrow, or an arrow pointing back. The front legs are straight posts. And so I'm coming down here to the bottom part of this arrow. Here I'm coming straight down, thicker part, and then there's a thinner part right here. The foot is then there flat on the ground on the base of that, or the toes, I should say. Technically, this whole part that I'm about to color red is the foot. That's its heel. These are the toes. That's the knee up there. So let's look at that on the raccoon up there. So on my raccoon, I have an upper part, I have a lower part, So its joint is here, this other joint is here, it's low, pretty low down, and then toes out on the ground. On the back leg, I have an upper part, I have a lower part. All right, still this is sort of a backwards facing arrow. You see this backwards facing arrow here. And then the toes are flat on the ground. Your neck attaches into, I'll get a brighter color. Your neck attaches on the coyote here. It attaches into this edge of the keystone. And so you're going to place your head, here's the simplified head. We're going to do a ball with a little duck beak, sticking out the front of it. All right. Where you place your head and how big you make your head is going to make your critter look really, really, really different. It's easy for me because I'm tracing over the photograph. So I'm going to get my head in the right position. I have a tendency to make my necks too long. And if you know what your own tendency is, that's really going to help you. So what I want to do is I want to look from the shoulder here, how far out is the head? And I'm going to put in a ball for that. I also have a tendency, and most people do, to make my heads too big. So people will put in a really, really, really big head. And so once you've got your head, you're going from the bottom edge of it down to the side of your keystone, and from the back of it up into your keystone. In some critters, you'll find that there's a lump right up in here on the top of the keystone. We're not seeing that on this critter. If this was a moose, you'd have a big lump. What about a raccoon? All right. Here, if I make my head too big, if I make it too far away from the body, it's not going to feel raccoony. So we've got a fairly short neck, broad nose, and then from the bottom of that, I'm coming in and across the back there. Looks like a seal to you? Reminds you of a seal? I can see that. Now, let's add one more thing in here. The tail. We're going to hang the tail from the back end of the keystone. And the tail is going to come down, and you want to think of it as a tube hanging down that is going to, when you get back up into the body, is going to kind of trim back up into there. So it's not sticking straight out from the whole section here. It's actually attaching up in here. And so you want to think of this tail here on the raccoon kind of coming back up in there. Right. So this is my thinking about my raccoon and so this is sort of my ideas underneath those drawings. Now, if you could scoot back that way, I'm going to turn that one on, and I need some space right in here by that screen. Thank you. Can I give your grapes? Now, I deleted everything because we're going to be doing this again, but this time, so now we jumped over to this big screen here. I'm going to stop this share. what we're going to be doing is I'm going to put up, those photographs, and I'll be drawing along with you. Kind of now that it was like, it's kind of cheating when I get to trace over the photograph. Look, my proportions ended up great. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to do side by side, and I am going to, there we are. And one moment, I'm going to get my got my coyote and my raccoon up.
They can't see it.
I know, they can't see it yet, but they will in a moment. Right, now, I am going to share my screen. Right. Let me see here. Jack, give me a thumbs up if you are currently looking at a screen that shows the visualizer, my tablet, and the coyote and the raccoon. Give me a look. Is that what we're seeing? Yeah. Okay, great. I am now going to, we're going to first do the raccoon, and then we'll do the coyote here, and we'll look at how to block these in. I'm going to be using my this mechanical pencil to sort of simulate my regular non-photo blue pencil, because my regular non-photo blue pencil, this is the one that I like to use for most of my sketching. It's the Kohl Erase Prismacolor non-photo blue pencil. It doesn't really show up very well on this Zoom screen. So I'm going to be using this that'll make it more of a bold mark than what I usually do. So we talked about starting with just sort of the line of the back of this thing. So I put kind of just a gesture of the line of the back of this beastie. And then I think to myself, if that's my back, how far down is my belly? And so I'm thinking it's roughly in there. And then I think to myself, if that's where my belly is, where am I putting in my feet? So you might want to draw along with this. Now, I've got these basic critical proportions blocked in, and I can now start to just kind of make this a little bit more sophisticated. My body is going to occupy roughly this much of it. So if that's my body, my head is going to be off in here. And at this stage, it's easy for me to move my head around. If my head is too low, too high, too big, too far out, too close in, all I have to do to reposition it, like my head is a little bit too low, is I'm going to just make my head a little bit higher up in there. I don't have to erase those original lines. Now, my raccoon is kind of has its nose down, so it has a little raccoon nosiness going on in there. But there's my basic body for this. In this area, I have my, I'm going to put in my keystone. So here's the front of its shoulder. So that front edge of my keystone, I'm kind of seeing this line right through here. And it's going to come up in here to where my raccoon shoulders are, and down like that. So that's my big shoulder area. I also have in this raccoon the other keystone roughly in this area. And it's walking along here. My leg is sort of sticking out like this. I have another leg that is coming down here. I've got another leg that's sticking out here. Walk, walk, walk. I have another leg that's kind of going back here. So I just put in a few little twigs as sort of placeholders just to help me kind of go like, all right, so your upper leg is going to be here, maybe like that. And then it gets smaller. This part here is going to be in here, the triangle, and then it gets smaller. This back leg is in here, and then it gets smaller. And my front leg, it's thicker, and then it gets smaller. And then there are the little toes on the end of that. So just adding a little kind of whoop, whoop, whoop. My tail is going to keep with this. And still at this stage, if something just looks off to me, I've got in a great place to fix it. So for instance, I was so focused on this leg that I was missing the negative shape here. Look at this shape here behind this leg. See this shape right there? Compare it with over here on the screen. Look at this. Here's this big shape. This foot is almost, whoa. All right, this one is really coming forward. So if I want to kind of get this kind of big stretchy thing kind of going on here, I can move this leg. I can take this other leg, and it is actually back in here. Even further than that. Right? See, that's the power of kind of initially blocking things in lightly. If I were doing that with my non-photo blue pencil, I wouldn't have to do this next step of just kind of getting here and erasing some of those lines that I didn't like. But I find it's really helpful to, in my head, have sort of two stages of sort of thinking about my drawing. There's the initial stage where I'm blocking in my basic shape, and then, well, look at this negative shape in here. That should be, oh yeah, this one is even further back. So this leg here wants to move back here. That's better. So it's going to be little leg popping down in here instead of so forward. You see, if I catch these things early on in my drawing, then changing them is pretty straightforward. If I've drawn in a really careful foot here, then, oh no, I have to get rid of that really careful foot. But now I can get this little foot coming all the way up here by this one. Raccoons, that back leg comes way forward. All right, so I've made some modifications and changes on this drawing. Is there anything else that I want to change? If I can catch it now, before there's a lot of detail here, I'm a much happier camper. Think of this early part of this drawing as just sort of roughing in and kind of getting to know the raccoon or the picture. And you're going to be making, you know, little changes and expect to modify your blue pencil drawing. Expect to modify that. Then, because if you just put those lines down and your brain says, those are right, now start drawing your details on top of it, that doesn't really help you. So I'm now going to switch over to another pencil. I'm going to use, actually I'm going to use this one. Nope, I'm going to use, hold on a second. I'm going to need to get right past you. Excuse me. There we go. All right, I'm going to use this nice dark pencil that Ray Bonto gave me. Isn't that cool? So this is a really dark pencil. I need to sharpen it a little bit. It's got a really, really soft lead. And so that's going to be fun. Hey, Ray Bonto, thank you. So I'm now going to start to sort of draw my final drawing. And I can be, if I think that my drawing is my kind of underdrawing here is too bold, I might just kind of lighten it up in a few places before I get going. I'll still be able to see it. These are my guidelines. If I'm working with a regular my standard non-photo blue pencil, this wouldn't really be an issue. Here, this one just was a little bit too bold, but I can still kind of see what my guidelines are well enough. Now I'm going to get my drawing on top of that. All right, so what am I going to do? I'm going to just start down here. You can really, when you've got something framed out like this, you can start anywhere on your critter. I'm going to generally start on this side and work my way towards this because I'm right-handed. If I did this area first and then started working over here, my hand is smudging all this part that I did here. If I were a lefty, I might start in this area and work in this direction so that I'm not smudging my drawing as I go. So if I would be going like this, starting to draw in here, and then as I would kind of work over here, I'm not smudging that. If I did this part first,
I do that.
right? That's what you do? Yeah. Amelia is a lefty, so she's going to start that way. So I'm going to just sort of in the kind of back here in the first, oh, that's such a nice sort of soft, just sort of like velvet going down on the page. I have my back leg coming down here. Now, see, on this line here, if I want this to look fuzzy and shaggy, I'm just going to put in an initial line and just a couple little flicks up like that. And that is enough to sort of suggest that that's fuzziness going on in there. Now I've got a big shaggy back of the leg here. So that line, it's hard for me to draw at this angle, so I've turned my page a little bit. So I'll often turn my page around as I'm drawing. Now back here on this part of the leg where there are big cracks, I'm going to give it just a few, sort of deeper, that just sort of suggests that like, ooh, there's really kind of shaggy fur back here.
Mine looks like he's holding his foot.
Holding his foot?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so Carolyn's pointing out that the front and the back leg are really, really close together. When you look at raccoon tracks in the mud, you'll see the little front and hind foot right next to each other in the mud. And so the back foot comes up really close to where that front is. Oh, nice. All right. Now, there's more kind of shagginess going down there on the leg. And here in the middle of the body, I'm going to kind of put a few of these deeper cracks in. That's suggesting kind of deep, deep fur. Oh, Ray Bonto, I really like this pencil.
If you're saying I can't really see the details of what's happening there in the foot, well, then I just don't put details in. So I'm putting in here just a few of these kind of deeper cracks in the fur. And that kind of gives you the sense that there's good shagginess that's going on in there. For this back foot, all I'm doing is we've got sort of a shape that is coming down, and it gets narrower, and then there's one last little kind of angle here where the little toes would be. I'm not putting any detail because I can't really see that at this distance. I call these bilberry marks, where I just sort of have an edge like this, and then I just would put in a few little flicks like that, and you could go like, oh, it's fuzzy over the top there. Deeper bilberry marks right there on the throat. And now coming down here. For this ear, I'm going to just put an area of tone into where the middle of the ear is. And then step back and put in some of that dark tone that is behind the ear. On the top edge, just sort of suggest that that comes around there. And I have one other ear that is sticking up back here. My little raccoon mask. Cute little raccoon nose. The raccoon has this flare of fur under its cheek. You can want to think of the edge of that actually comes down from below where the ear is. If we have time, we'll take a look at look at one of the faces of these. So down here under that is this little place where the raccoon has this little flare out of fur. And I don't have to kind of close this loop here of drawing this line all the way over here. You can have some places on your drawing be what they call lost and found edges. Actually, let's just sort of experiment with some lost and found edges in other places. You know, if you've got something, you know, like this, you know, you can have actual openings in your line drawing, and people will, it just kind of lets the drawing breathe almost. My little buddy has dark on the tip of the tail now. I can put in those stripes on the tail. Bigger stripe here. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, and a slight pale fifth. So I'm looking at just sort of when you put in a stripe, notice it's a thin stripe, then look at the width of the next white area before you put your stripe in. And you see that those are getting closer together. So I'm just making a little kind of jiggly mark with my pencil as I'm coming down there.
When does Spanish start?
Aw, little raccoon bopping along. Let's take a look at how, in comparison, how we would handle the coyote. So I'm going to get my coyote here. So I want to invite you to follow along with that as well. I am going to start with that line at the back. It's pretty flat. And then how far down below that is the belly? And then how far down below that is the ground. Really easy to change these proportions right now. So stop and double check. I think, did I make my legs too long?
I think you made them too short.
Maybe too short. It's hard. I have to come back to that. It's feeling a little bit off. My brain isn't quite registering where I had. So we'll see. So you think I should make them a little bit longer? Yeah, they are pretty long legs. Now, for the shape in the front, the keystone in the front, it is going to, I'm going to have a line that comes down to the elbow there, and we come up and up and small across the top. I then have some coyote belly, and I have my hips. The keystone in the back. So now that I'm looking at that a little bit better, I'm thinking, okay, my ground, yeah, wants to be just about in there. What's going to be happening with my front legs? I'm going to have the front legs. Look at how far down the joint is on those front legs. Don't put that little joint in the middle. I'm down here, and on a standing coyote, you often see this next part kind of popped forward, but this thing is walking, and so we're kind of coming down there to its toes. You have another leg that is popped forward. To get that front leg, let's look at the shape of that negative space in the air. All right, so the negative shape is this area right here underneath this leg. Look at the shape of that air. All right, and that's going to help you get your front leg in the right position. And it's long with a little walkie foot to the skinny part to that little walkie foot. Now let's look at, there's roughly a negative shape in here that is about that big. Okay, can I get that to connect up here? I've got, this is going to be, this part wants to be coming down, this part here, but then, oh, look at this. See, oh, see, this is why negative shapes are so useful. Look at my back leg here, right? If I go, here's my back leg. I can get so into drawing my back leg that I get it in slightly the wrong place. This one's leg is a little bit, look at this distance here between this foot and this foot. My drawing, those are too close together. So what's going on is I'm missing the shape of this negative shape. Really what I want is something that's going to come up here, and it's going to come in here, and it's going to be more like that. So I like to, when in doubt, believe your negative shape. Believe your negative shape. That means that this keystone is going to then come up to meet it. Your negative shape is there to help you. This leg comes down. It is thicker here and then skinnier here. And then I have my little walkie foot, my toes. Anatomically, this is your heel. This is your knee. Those are your toes. So this whole part there is anatomically your foot. Let's look at this negative shape back here that puts this back leg roughly in here. So you've got that, then that just helps you be able to go like, oh, I have a back leg sticking down like that. And then my tail is going to come in this area here. My neck attaches onto the front edge of this keystone. And there it is. I tend to make my necks way too long. So what I'm doing right now is I'm saying to myself, is this neck too long? Did I do it again? Or is that going to be okay? Is it okay to have my head here? All right. I think it is. I think that's going to be okay. And then I'm going to have a long nose. That's right. Do your best. To get this kind of the angles on the head, this head is at a slight angle towards me, so you're seeing a little bit of forehead space right up in here. You see that? See this this line between this light edge and the dark? Imagine a little rectangle sitting right there on the top of that forehead. They would be seeing that would be forehead space there. So if I actually put that into my sketch over here, that is going to help me be able to see this as this, so that the head in that position. Great big coyote ear, other great big coyote ear. What is the angle between those ears? What is the negative shape between those ears? Wow, that back one is really, you really see a lot of ear. Look at how much ear is sticking up there. Eye is going to be in this general area. Nose, I am looking out across the top surface of the nose there, out to a tab of that nose. And now I'm going to take a look at it and see if there's anything that I really want to change before I drop in some detail. So I'm checking my negative shapes, check my negative shapes, negative shape, and negative shape. That's a little bit off there. Sometimes when you see a negative shape, you want to look for where your negative shape is different than what you see on the screen. And that often tells you something. This is coming up too vertical. The real negative shape is more in like this. So maybe that back leg is back further, doing something like that. Yeah, I think that's better. And that then allows me to change the angle of my tail, which was also on. So you see how the negative shapes just sort of, they just alert me that, like, you know, you might want to take a closer look at that area. All right, let's see. Just take another look in there and sort of see what you can find. Also, joint height, this one wants to be lower. Yeah, that comes in here. This one seems okay. Joint low, joint low. Okay, I'm okay with that. So I'm going to just reduce the boldness of a few of these lines before I just kind of clean that up a little bit before I get in there with my other pencil. Often I don't have to do that if I'm using my regular non-photo blue pencil. But here, these lines, all these lines going everywhere on the face. That's going to get in my way. My final drawing. So I now have like enough of these sort of ghost marks that a lot of the positioning of elements of the body have already been worked out for me. And so now I can grab my Ray Bonto pencil again and just sort of start playing along the contours of the body. Let's start in this area again and work our way to the right because I'm ready. So I'm using some longer strokes in here. On the back of my leg here, the back of dog's legs, there's a lot of shaggy fur right in there. So I'm going to put in some of those, more of those bilberry marks.
Bilberry.
This part of the foot is really interesting. This is where the heel is. And you see this little bump. This is the tip of the heel. This thing coming down right here is the Achilles tendon. If you feel behind your own ankle, right, that little strip of tendon that comes down to your own heels, you're seeing that very clearly here and there. You'll see this really boldly on animal skeletons, on animal bodies as they're walking around. It's the bone in its leg is coming down here. So this bump here, you're actually seeing where the bone is coming down. So there's this gap behind that where there's just skin with tendon on one side, bone on the other. And it usually often leaves this little divot right in this area. So you often will look, you can look for and see a little kind of a divot right in that area there. Belly fur is thick. There's this long post of the leg coming down. These are area with sort of pectoral muscles right up in this area of our coyote. They don't have really big pectoral muscles, but from the position of that leg, we're kind of looking into that area. Right, a little bit of a bump right here over the shoulder. And then you'll see right back in here, coyotes have this little kind of dark cape mark on their back right in here. So here's the elbow. So you're seeing the birds. Yes, this bird's shoulder is in here. Its elbow is in here. So there's a bone that is coming down like this. Here is the bone coming down to its elbow right here. So you're seeing that little elbow stick down, and then you have forearm. So that leg looks longer because you're seeing it's got that extended. this shadow here will help kind of kick that back. And I'm going to keep my drawing of my head a little bit more simple. For my ear, I am going to have a hint of the outer edge of it, and I'm going to draw in that darker part inside the ear. Instead of drawing in all those little hairs. Using my pencil lightly, give this one a far ear. Look at how far back that coyote's mouth comes. And where's the eye? Well, this little kind of that square on the forehead really helps us place it right in here. What I'm drawing with this eye is essentially a shape like this. There's a little dark area down in the bottom corner of it. The eye, the pupil is right up against the top part. And so that's what I'm going to be trying to, just with a few little strokes here and a dull pencil, be able to suggest in here. But before I really draw that, I want to just sort of make sure, yeah, I've got my side of my nose will be coming up in here. And yep, that is where I want my eye. If I get too fussy in there, I'm going to overwork it. And a little cheekbone. There's a little coyote bopping along. So I was able to get the proportions of that raccoon. Let's drop it down. Portions of the raccoon, proportions of that coyote. Want to just take one last look at it. Is there anything else that I want to change about it? And yes, there is. Very often I'll just sort of look for what parts just sort of feel off, what feels odd to me. Part of what was feeling odd to me is this little connector in here where the neck comes down and meets the body here. I want this to be just a little bit stronger here, and I want this part here to be a little bit more, I want this to be a kind of more slender coyote. Kind of tuck that up into there. I look at my coyote. If you ever are having a hard time looking at your own work, hold it up to a mirror. If you look at it in a mirror, you will you'll notice different sorts of details, different sorts of things that you'd want to change. Because you're now looking at your picture backwards, you will be able to see different different sorts of decisions that you might make on parts of your drawing that are not reading clearly. Can't really do that out in the field, but you'll find lots of artists often kind of looking at their art in a mirror, and then they go like, oh, I see what's going on. It's really sort of a very strange thing to see the reverse of your drawing. Right now, my coyote is floating. Oh, this is interesting. A couple of things to point out. Don't know if you can, yeah, you can see this. You can see area in here of just smudged pencil. See that? Area here. So I did some drawing back in here, and I let the side of my hand, look at that. See how the side of my hand is covered with pencil? That then just sort of smears your thing around. Some artists will take a piece of paper, they'll put it underneath their hand as they're drawing in an area like this. So that they don't do that. Others will just sort of raise their hand up, but I find it hard to kind of float my hand there. And I often don't bring something like that into the a little sort of extra piece of paper with me when I'm in the field. But for studio work, you can do that. There. Oh, that's right. I've got this levitating coyote. And so what I'm going to do is give it a little bit of a shadow. And that grounds the animal. Then you get sort of a sense of like, oh, you're in the sun. There we are. So that is our coyote and raccoon. We have seen the differences in those proportions. We looked at how we kind of go about blocking those in. Maybe we can even put in some lost and found edges in the coyote. That might be. It's neat to have some places where the viewer gets to use a little bit of their imagination. All right. I am going to stop my share. And those are some strategies for looking at mammals. We used similar approach in both of them, but you notice as we were looking at those, it got us to think in really different ways about the form of those critters. And thank you so much for being with us today. What I'm going to do now is jump over to the community cam and well, let's see here. So I'm going to remove my spotlight and I'm going to go to the community cam. If anybody has any thoughts, comments, ideas, or would like to share something, I encourage you to raise your hand. There's a little raise hand feature. Oh, Evea, hey there. I am. And I'm going to first jump over to Judy. Judy, thank you for being with us. Oh, I have to make you able to unmute yourself. That is why you can't talk right now. Don't worry. Judy McKinley, thank you for being with us.
Oh, hi. I can't show you my picture, but hello, everyone. Go ahead. I want to see everyone, but I did draw a couple of raccoons and coyotes, so that was fun. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being here. Does anybody else have a sketch that you made or that you wanted to share? Jack, hey there. Good to see you.
Hey.
I'm going to spotlight you.
So yesterday we had all of our cousins over our house, and for an early birthday gift, my grandma gave me this.
Oh, you're gonna have some fun with that, I think.
Yeah, I've been looking through it, and this.
Oh boy, yep, those are the tools.
And I did.
The lioness with watercolor. All right, Jack, this is exciting to see. That's really fun. Yep. There's a bunch of step-by-step exercises in there that you can use to develop all sorts of strategies for drawing what you see. Did you have a good time?
Huh?
Did you have a good time at the zoo?
Oh, I haven't gone to the zoo yet.
You haven't gone yet. Okay, so that's still to come.
I'm going on my birthday, which is this Saturday.
All right.
And I found, right before I went outside to sketch the other day, I found this dead mosquito. It looked like it. Yeah, I know that my brother had whacked him because he was in our house, but I found his I found him in the garage.
Oh, wow. And so you've got measurements in here too. And look at those angles on the leg. Is this, is that close to life size here? This, you know what, Jack, this may be a crane fly.
A what?
A crane fly. So it looks like the giant mosquito, right?
Uh-huh.
It
He
looks
was
like
really big.
that would take about a gallon of your blood.
Hmm.
That is it's a relative of the mosquito, but it eats plant nectar and dew, and they never bite people. So fortunately,
Really?
those giant mosquito-looking things are harmless, and they're. But look at that close-up detail of the leg there. I like how you're thinking about acute angles and similar things like the wings of a dragonfly as you're looking at these wings. That's
And
really.
I have one more. I started this new journal because I completed this.
Oh, yeah, congratulations.
So I started this.
Great.
And my first thing was we went to a playground and they had this huge tree and I was able to climb on the slide and reach over and grab one of his branches and I brought it home and flattened it in a book.
Oh, how interesting. So it's one of these compound leaves with all those little leaflets sticking off of it. That's really neat. And so is this done about life size?
Yeah.
I sometimes when I'm drawing something like that life size, I will start off just by kind of tracing parts of it to help me kind of get proportions and positions of things going on in that. And here's today's raccoon, Raccoon and Coyote. Great proportions, great proportions. And you kind of get a sense of the shagginess of where they're shaggy and where they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Jack, well done. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I hope you have a really good time at the zoo. All right. Let's take a look now. I'm going to jump back to my gallery and see what else people have been up to. I see that Ray Bonto has. Hey there. So I want to thank you again for the pencil you sent me.
You did not.
Yes, it's frozen. Yeah, there.
There we go.
Hello. Yeah, you're welcome. And next time I might send you a 90 if I do, because 12B is a little too soft. But
oh, I really like. So are you doing smudging with it?
no, and just values.
Just so you're blocking in 3 values down. You've got your darkest darks, medium value area. I'm modifying mine while looking at your ideas here. I like how you're leaving pale areas in there. Those lights on there. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
And also to kind of accentuate those negative spaces with some color.
Yeah. So as for my nature journal, I just decided to color the thing and turn it into a map. And
Aren't those roots amazing?
Yeah.
And it's fun to put in those little kind of those little dark moments. What type of is this? Is this a magnolia relative that is what has these cool root structures?
I have no idea. All I know is that squirrels live here.
The squirrels live there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this really reminds me of kind of elephant skin on that. So as you are oh, look at the little insects. What are you currently working on as you're doing these things? You know how different times we've got different goals and objectives. What for you personally are the areas where you are kind of pushing yourself and creating challenges in your journal?
I'm trying to work on the words more. Because I'm usually speechless and I want pictures.
So you're looking at sort of places that you can integrate words more with your observations.
Yeah, I don't know about sentences, so I start with labels and stuff.
That's a great way to do it. That's a great way to kind of introduce it into your journal. Yeah, some people in school they often treat us that we have to write in full sentences and paragraphs, but we can just do whatever works for us, whatever is useful to us. And so and it's nice to sort of just be aware of what your own personal growth edge is, and just push yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zone.
And today, best day ever. There weren't any pigeons there, so I decided to start with doing a little rose with a white one, and there were blooming ones, buds and stuff. I started sketching them. Now there's a fountain. So I looked in there and I saw something white. And then I looked closer and it was a fish. And then I looked even closer and there were thousands of tiny little fish in it.
Oh, that is really fun. I like seeing kind of those shapes emerging out of the darkness. And the angle down, are these koi?
I don't know. Well, someone
Looks like yes.
Someone said to their son, "That's a koi catfish or something." But yeah.
Oh, that's really neat. And with that, having the dark adjacent to it really makes you get a sense of just how these things kind of glow out of the darkness of the deep pond.
And so I decided to go a bit closer. So these were all the fish that I saw. This was one of them. This was the koi or something. And this was an even stranger fish. It had blue underneath and orange.
Oh, wow. I like the way you're kind of suggesting the translucence of that dorsal fin on the top of its body, with a little bit of gouache up in there, some of the color of the paper showing through. You really kind of get a sense of these different textures on that. Also, that glow of the blue, was that done with gouache on the belly down there? How did you achieve that effect?
watercolor, and when I came back home, I did colored pencil.
Great.
I didn't get the full darkness because I'm running out of all my blacks. Uh, I decided to come back home, and I didn't get time because I had to have dinner, and then it was time for your class. Uh, and uh, so in your, I always do this in your class. I was like, oh, I colored pencil, and then come back for the raccoon and stuff like that. So, but the colored pencil is really opaque, so that's a good one.
Oh, that's a really good strategy. I just sort of get a sense of just these colors glowing off of the fish that makes those darks so interesting. Having all of those varieties of colors in there.
And this one, oh, this was so tiny, about that much, and I looked closer, and as a reward for observing, I noticed fluorescence.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. I see that, just those glowing colors on the belly there. Oh, how interesting. How interesting. That's really fun.
Yeah. This one was the biggest, about that big, and this one was about that much. It was just a bigger version of these.
Yeah.
And this one was the same as this.
Oh, that's really fun. It's neat too when you birds, pigeons really, really well. Then to jump over to a species that you're not as familiar with, and both in the structures where your brain is going, like where the legs come out on a bird because you've observed so many of them. But then when you're now going to jump over to the fish, and there are all of these sort of new challenges, new angles. You're not just, something that I really respect is that you are not just sitting in your comfort zone, but you are pushing your brain to observe different things in different ways. And that's a really great way to kind of keep your brain on, like if we're doing something and it gets easy for us, for me, that's a big sign, like, oh, what can I do to kind of turn up the volume on my brain? So by giving myself just, where will the challenge be? I really like that you are finding those other challenges.
I usually don't go for the ones I know of. I usually go for a new species or something because I haven't seen very much.
Yeah, or also see where you where you're looking for the novel in the familiar. So you're looking for at things that, like, pigeons really well, but then you'll look at that group of pigeons and you'll be able to just find some new discovery in this. And so you don't have one of those brains where somebody kind of looks at something and goes like, oh yeah, I know that. I've been there, done that, got it in my journal, and close. What I really love about your investigation approach is that you'll look at something that you've seen hundreds of times before, and you'll look at it and you'll look at it again, and then you're making new discoveries in things that are familiar. That's really cool. That's the way we roll.
Thank you. And I'll finish. So you can get this pack of.
Let me tell you. Hi, Jack. So me and my wife are just strolling around in a car boot sale, and we found some very beautiful bird pictures. And okay, let me say. So these are little cards that was circulated. I don't know if you have it in US, but these were circulated in Britain around 1950s and 60s. So they were selling those things, and we bought a book. So that man gave us these cards for free. I bought them. So very pretty pictures of birds and stuff.
And on the back, they've got information.
And got information at the back.
And do you know who's the author of the bird one? Artist, I mean.
The artist. Hold up some of. Don't show me the. Was it? Are we looking at? What is that fellow's name? Why am I blanking on his name? Is this Tunnicliffe who's doing these?
Yes.
So these are old Tunnicliffe.
Yes.
Yes.
And he also wrote. He wrote the whole thing.
What a find! What a little gold mine.
Yep.
It's about how many cards? About 50 cards. 50 cards with Tunnicliffe pictures.
So this is the wood pigeon, and you go and you can read about the wood pigeon.
Oh, that's really fun.
It's very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I find you, I'll send you some.
That's really, really cool. And it's neat to see hold up that magpie one. It's like there's some neat
I saw the magpie just now.
Well, this is a jack snipe or snipe.
One.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, let's check what he's doing with that iridescence. Love the contrast, the iridescence. And so notice all that iridescence on the tail there, the part that's not in light, he's let that part just go to dark. Iridescence, when it doesn't get that straight light, the light turns off. That's really cool. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
Wow, a set of Tunnicliffe trading cards. Who knew that such a thing existed? That's great. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
All right, let me now going to jump back over to the gallery view here. And Cindy, hey there. It's really good to see you.
Hi there. Well, Jack, the other Jack, your crane fly made me share today because I decided I wanted to look at insects a little this year. And I saw one near to the marsh on grass, and I had no idea what it was. So I tried to draw it, and I had lots of questions about it. And when I got home, I started looking in the books, and I thought maybe it was a crane fly. I'd never heard of crane flies before. So I'm still not sure, but that was my version of trying to draw one. And I thought it was really funny the way he was perched there, or she. The legs actually came under the body in a really strange way, and seemed to be all which ways. And I couldn't quite figure out what that was doing to keep it perched in the area. But it was a very cooperative subject. It just sat on its grass and let me come closer and closer with and I did my magnification on my camera so I could go home and try to draw it. So that's that.
Oh, can you hold this crane fly a little bit closer to the screen? Oh, that's really fun.
So I tried to get, there was a little triangle at the back, and I didn't know what that was. At first, I didn't even know if it, what kind of insect it was. And I thought, could that be a stinger or an ovipositor? And I didn't know, so I wrote a question about it. And I tried to get some of the markings. There were purple lines on its things like that, and membranous, and the big eyes. But it was really cool to watch.
That is really, really neat. And you've got that, the shape of the wing is so interesting too. The way it kind of narrows as it gets towards the body. Let me grab something off my shelf here for a second. I'll show you something kind of fun. Because you did something that I really liked. You you did not assume that it was male or female. And you made a sort of comment about sort of, just I wonder which one this is. A lot of people will just sort of, call it, look at him, but we don't know if it's a him. So you kind of held a nice sort of scientific space there. Let me join you with a share screen here. And I am going to go to this.
I know it's not a coyote or a raccoon.
That's right. So this is some sketches of crane flies here. And something that's really fun is you can look at the shape of the tip of the abdomen. And that tells you whether it's male or female. So if it goes to a sharp point,
it did.
That's the female.
Ooh,
so I noticed on Jack, on your page, you had that thing. You're like, is this a stinger? And what you're looking at is her ovipositor for laying eggs. And it's interesting, stingers evolved from ovipositors.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And so if it has a blunt tip to the end of the body, then you are looking at a male. So here's a male and here's a female. The other really fun thing to look at on crane flies is, do you see, so here's the front wings sticking out. Let me zoom down on this a little bit more. Right. So here are the front wings coming out. If you look behind those front wings, there are these pegs that stick out with little balls on the end of them. And those little pegs, they're easy to overlook the first time you look at one of these, but the next time you get a chance to find a crane fly, or actually any kind of fly has these, you'll see these pegs with balls on the ends, and those little pegs will rotate like little gyroscopes as the insect is flying around and kind of help it keep level and do its thing. But here's the crazy thing. These are the vestigial wings. These are vestigial hind wings that now are in the flies. You have lost the ancestor had 4 wings. Now we have these things with only 1 pair of wings, and you're seeing the vestigial remnant of the hind wings on those little things that stick out. And those are, again, they call them halteres. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it or how to spell it. And those, they spin like little gyroscopes as the crane fly is buzzing around. So that's a really fun thing to look for on crane fly.
Cool. Well, as long as I'm here, can I share a couple of other things here?
Please, please, please do.
In the spirit of looking at insects, I decided that since I was a little kid, I'd always, known what a pussy willow was in general. But this year I decided I'd look at them. And so early in, I guess it was April, I saw the first ones that I had seen, the little gray ones. And then later down by a pond near me, I started watching a willow that had pussy willow things on it. And I noticed under the magnifying glass that at one point they had little things coming out that looked like the stamen with yellow on them. And in that, there were ants in there. So I figured ants must be their pollinators. And there were 2 ants in the one, but I only drew one of them there. I think this might have been after your ant lesson. I tried to draw an ant. And then that was looking at them in April 8th. And then in May, down there was one that had these funny, spiky, pointy things coming out of it. So I took out a funny, spiky, pointy thing and looked at it up close. And it looked like it had a little ovary at the bottom of it. And I thought, maybe this is the female plant and the other one was the male one. And so I looked up and it said somewhere I read that they were dioecious, that the male flowers were on male plants and the female were on female plants. And I had no idea. I just thought pussy willows were those little soft things. I had no idea there were male and female and that they changed over time like this. So a really fun thing was going back to the same plant, this group of plants there, and looking at them over the months.
That's really fun. Can I bring in the mad botanist on this conversation?
Yes.
So Avea has been, isn't this a great discovery about the dioecious willows?
Yes, that is really cool. So that I don't think I knew that about them before. So you telling me this is new information, and this is really exciting to hear that.
Well, and it was so cool to come to the knowledge of it, not through reading it in a book, but actually seeing things I didn't understand, looking at them more closely and thinking, ooh, this looks like pollen on the top of this one. And this thing over here at a different point in time, looked like the ovary. So, and then going and doing the research and saying, yeah, I think there actually are two different ones.
I think that, and I think that you'll remember it because you noticed it in the field first. Like you just said, it was something that you noticed and sort of discovered by yourself. And then later on, you got the confirmation that those moments are just magic.
They really are.
Aren't they?
And then my other thing I've been trying to do is do more sketching actually in the field, not coming home with my iPhotos and trying to do stuff. So I went to my local wildlife refuge marsh and sat on a bench by the river with the impoundment of water behind me and the river in front, and decided, well, I'll just try and draw the sign because there wasn't anything that I was like interested in. And then a killdeer came over. And I had never seen a killdeer before that I know of or remembered. So I tried to draw the killdeer right then and there with a bunch of different poses and doing different things. And I had a million questions and I decided, you can see my first one up there, that was all that I could like make out of it. And I decided, well, these are going to be my sacrificial pancakes. I don't care. I'm just going to draw. So I drew and I asked questions.
Well, hold us up. Everybody, wait, show us again the first killdeer. See, there it is. So Cindy's noticing, okay, there's two big bars on the body there. And that may be all you get in that first sketch. But then you keep looking and you keep looking and look at how it gets refined.
And then I went home.
And you're also doing the show and tell thing really well of pointing things out with words and with your diagrams and sketches. Note, everybody, multiple angles all going on at the same time. Not just one portrait, but all these different angles. So as the killdeer moves, Cindy moves to the next drawing.
And I found that I keep going back to this page, to my initial notes. And as I go back day after day, the notes start to make more sense and I see more of the things happen. So I came home that night and I drew, let's see if I can understand backwards here. Okay, so I drew from my iPhoto pictures and tried to get the feeling of the killdeer better because it was
Yeah.
such a different looking bird from the ones I'd been looking at. And one of the things that had been there that I had seen while I was there was a little baby killdeer up in front. So there was a parent and a little teeny one.
Oh.
And this was the only day I saw it. I've been back several times and I haven't seen it. And then I looked in.
When you were out there with that first one, was it doing any kind of weird wing flapping on the ground? Spreading its wings or tail?
Oh, at one time, yeah, it did spread its tail, it lifted its tail, and it was all red underneath, and it lifted its wings. It was doing a lot of bobbing and tail going up while it was bobbing. But that was the only day I saw it do the, was that like a distraction, like a broken wing thing to go, oh, I had no idea that was what I was seeing.
Isn't that cool? And so the only day that you saw the chick is the only day that you saw that behavior.
The behavior with the flapping and the tail, because I've been wanting to see underneath those wings that orange rump again, and it had never done it, but it didn't bring its baby back. I can see it when it flies, but I still haven't been able to capture a sketch of it flying. It's like too different for me.
Yeah.
But I came home and I did another sketch of a couple positions and tried to do some of the markings. And then I looked it up in a book and tried to do the markings, looking at the book and then looking at my photo and looking back and seeing what I had. And then the next day I went back and I noticed I noticed that he was picking one leg up and kind of patting at the water, and little droplets were flying off that leg. And I wasn't quite sure whether that was like trying to scare up like insect larvae or whether it was what it was for, trying to figure out where things were, but it was hunting at that point.
That's a really interesting behavior. I have never noticed that. That is a great thing to look for. So it's tapping its foot into the water and little drops.
Tapping that back foot, standing on one leg and tapping the back foot, getting little droplets of water and little waves to go around it. And I wasn't sure what it was doing.
This is a really cool example of kind of leveling up an experience. So you started with just the observations in the field, then you added into that study of the critter at home and using photographs, and then you go back into the field and look at it again with more of an understanding of what's going on there.
Yep, and then I took lots of notes on it. And then the last day that I saw it recently, or what was it? Oh, I decided of all the things it was doing, I would draw it. It was standing on one leg and I don't know, preening or scratching or doing something with the other leg. That pink thing coming up was my attempt to draw the leg that it was like scratching its head with. So I've been trying different postures and noting a lot of different behaviors. This was the first day I saw it walk down the trail to another place. So I drew the trail in and just said it walked down. So I've just been following this. There's actually there's a pair of them, and one will fly in and then it'll fly across the river where I assume their nest is. And then the other one will fly in and fish for a while. And we spend all afternoon there.
There's
so
such
it's been a lot of fun.
Such cool covers. That's great. That's fun. And I really like your, it's neat when you give yourself a project. Like I'm going to dive deep into the world of these killdeer. And then the mysteries, you start just to see so much more of what is happening there.
And I also think it helps with the drawing. I never knew how to, draw before I started this. I, still don't, I'm still learning, but I feel like I have much more ease and my lines flow better if I know the bird.
Yeah.
than if I'm drawing some stranger. So that's been helping me with the drawing.
Yeah, I find the same thing. When you're drawing something that's completely new, your brain doesn't have any anchor points. But if your brain has some anchor points, you know, some basic structure of what's going on, then you can put this together. That's really neat.
And I also think there's an emotional connection there, and that when there's that, you have that focus and see it more deeply. You can see things you can focus in on.
Right. It's fun to see familiar old friends again.
Yep.
Cindy, thank you so much for sharing that. That's a really exciting collection of observations.
Well, thank you.
I'm now jumping over to the gallery again. If anybody would like to share something, Chris, welcome
Can
to
you
the
hear me?
Nature Workshop. Loud and clear.
So I've never shared my drawings before because, you know, I have this worry about them not looking good for my own self. So there you go. But I did draw your raccoon and your coyote today. I don't know if you can see them.
Oh, yes, these are good proportions.
The reason why I'm sharing is because so I live in this incredible place. I live in Tillamook, Oregon, which is way up north of you. I used to live in Napa County, but moved up here last year. So it's kind of weird. But yesterday I saw the most incredible thing in my yard. And I know you guys would appreciate it. So, you know, I tell people this and they're like, oh yeah, okay.
Tell us the story.
So yesterday morning, I saw a tanager, a Western tanager, which was so incredible. And I thought, oh my gosh, someone's bird escaped because they're so vibrant. But then I started looking it up and I realized, I found out what it was. And so I tried to draw a little picture of it afterwards. So this is my.
Oh, yes.
But so that was incredible. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is such a great day. I saw this tanager and, you know, I was like so excited. Wow. And then there was this little young robin that's been hopping around here. So I've been watching it and it's got a lot of spots on its tummy. So I just been watching that. And that's really cool. And then there was these little, this little bird that looked like a miniature young robin. And I'm not sure if it's a hermit thrush or a Swanson's thrush, but it also has like little spots on its chest. And so I'm not sure which one it is because apparently of those two birds, one has like a white ring on around its eye. And I didn't look at this closely enough to see which one it was. So hopefully it'll come back into my yard.
Yeah, another thing for the Swainson's and hermit thrush is to look at whether on its rump, so where the back attaches to the tail, is it sort of a grayish, brownish, almost greenish gray brown color, or is it a reddy rusty color?
Okay.
That's another good spot to look for on those thrushes.
Okay, and that'll kind of determine which one is which. Hopefully I'll be able to see it come back into the yard again.
But even if you don't, it's neat to kind of have these. You did a great job of looking at it, and what you said there shows some really great observations. You said it looked like a little robin, and the hermit thrush. The robins are thrushes.
Oh, really?
So yes. So you actually were by kind of getting your sort of general sense and noticing you did this wonderful "it reminds me of," and you got that to the family that these are both in the same family, that they're thrushes. And isn't that a cool observation?
Yeah, it was cool. So all this was happening in my yard. And so I work from home. So meanwhile, I'm doing my computer thing, working from home. I'm an IT person, you know, so doing that. But I have these windows all around me. So I look outside and have my little binoculars with me all the time. And as I was watching that thrush out of the corner of my eye, I saw this ruckus and I looked up and there were 4 crows chasing a barn owl through the yard, which was incredible. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just witnessed that. So I tried to paint it up here.
Oh, look at that. Oh, hold that
Those
up
are
again.
pictures from the internet though. My cell phone will not take good enough pictures.
That's
but,
okay.
so.
That's okay. Well, hold that up again. Let's see that little picture again. Oh, what fun. Oh, that is so much fun to see.
So that was really cool. And so mainly I decided, well, I'm gonna share this, but I'm gonna start learning to nature journal and not be so particular about what the final picture looks like, because this will be a visual reminder to me. And it'll always bring me back to that moment, which was so incredible in my yard. And I just have to tell you one more thing. So I live in this great place and I see these incredible things. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. But there are also things that I get to witness that aren't so amazing. Right as this call was starting this morning, there were some robins doing this dive bombing thing in the yard, and there was some tall grass, and I'm like, what the heck are they after? And so I watched them for a few minutes and thought I should walk out there and see what the heck they're dive bombing. So your call had just started and I was kind of like, oh, I got to go see what they're after. And then a crow jumped up from the grass and it had a baby robin and it flew away. So it was a terrible thing, but I know that's how nature works. But I thought I can't nature journal that because I don't want to remember that. But that there you go. That's life. And it was sad, but incredible to see, but still sad.
Yeah, it is. I think that's a good way to frame it. But also, from the crow's perspective, yes, thank you for asking. That's that you may have seen the crow's baby being able to be fed by
that's true.
By that. There's that, and from the worm's perspective, those robins are such horrible violent predators. But we look at the robin and we're like, oh, you're a robin. But everybody's eating everybody out there all over the place. And what for me, what I try to do is kind of get myself out of the mindset where, if you eat plants, you're nice. And if you eat other things, then you're not nice. Right? So it's wonderful to see the owl. But the fact that you're seeing an owl means that owl ate a whole bunch of other things. And that what I try to do with myself is to try to just get myself to accept, when I see something eating something, just this is just sort of part of what is going on out here.
Right.
And I try not to bring but I still find myself, valuing or putting these little value judgments on, like, oh, in our culture, this idea of predator bad is so deeply ingrained. All of these, Little Red Riding Hood and all these other sort of stories that have the three little pigs. The bad guy is the predator, and that messaging has been so ingrained in us that is something that I have to deliberately kind of notice and kind of like, no, I'm choosing not to sort of see you and your sort of predation activity as wrong or aberrant. You can get things like in the movie The Lion King. The lion makes friends with a warthog and a meerkat. And then you're thinking about, so what's for dinner? So they have the lion grows up learning how to eat bugs, and he just eats insects and grows to be a big, strong, healthy lion. And so we kind of stand on our head to. I think that's just sort of another example of the degree to which we vilify the predator, unless you eat bugs, which we have a harder time identifying with. But that crow was just getting its crow on, being a full-on crow.
Right.
And that owl, if it has a chance, it's having crows for lunch, which is why the crows are chasing it out of the area.
Right. There is a crow nest in the tree right here. So, I mean, I haven't seen the babies, but I saw them build the nest, and but so it's just kind of fascinating to see this circle that you know,
That's a good way to think
like
about it.
I don't know, it's very interesting. But I will say, yesterday the afternoon, the crows have been pretty quiet here, but yesterday afternoon, after the owl came through, they hollered the whole day. They were just so upset for the whole day. So it's kind of fascinating to see all this, but some things you just don't want to remember. So, you know, I'm not going to nature journal about the baby robin, even though, you know, I know it's life, it happens.
Yeah, yeah. Especially very, and also we have sort of a natural instinct of wanting to take care of babies.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see anything that you know has big eyes and a big head, our brains see that signal of big eyes, big head as being cute.
Mm-hmm.
And the cute things, what is our response? We're like, oh, we want to take care of it. So babies, big eyes, big heads, you know, when a baby gets eaten, you know, we are particularly anti-predator.
Right.
But you know, those babies, they feed some other babies.
That's true. That's true. So,
but
anyway.
well, that's what wonderful observations. I am so glad you've got this tool to help you explore and adventure with all of these discoveries outside of your window there.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Well, thank you guys for being here, because I knew you would appreciate this. You know, I sent this note, I'm like, sent the note to my daughter and my parents, and they're like, oh, that's terrible. I'm like, no, you don't get it. You know? This is incredible. Like yesterday with the owl, you know, so I knew you guys would understand. So I just appreciate this community.
We feel you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. Is it Chris Gregory?
It's Gregor. Yeah, weird. That E should be off the end there.
Okay, so thank you so much, Chris. I really
Thank you.
appreciate that. I see that Jack and Carmen have something to share. Jack, I'm going to put you on first, and then we're going to jump over to Carmen. All right. Yes, my friend.
I had a one, actually 2 questions. I got this for Christmas, this microscope last Christmas, and along with that, I got this last Christmas too, and it came with a little like box like of how to make slides, and I still don't know what these are. It came with these 2 things. They're like stains, but I don't know what they are. Do you?
Oh yeah. So some things, when they are some very small things under microscopes, are hard to see. And so there are different types of stain that can stain the coats or the skins of some sorts of organisms. So for instance, there are some transparent protists, little microscopic organisms. And when you look at them under normal light, they're hard to see, and you have to kind of get the light at the right angle, and then you go like, oh, look, there you are. If you put some of these stains in, some of them, their skins, their coats, they become easier to see. Also, there are, when people are making sort of slides of parts of plants, like if you were to say, like, what does it look like, you know, inside the root hair of this onion, and you kind of get in there, everything's white. So they will put stains in on that, and then the cell walls and all these different structures, like, they're now bright purple.
So like, would you like with the slide? So like with the slide, so like, let's say I have my object on the slide. Would I put the stain on first and like put a little of the stain on first? Like, would you like just kind of put some on?
Yeah, I think you know, I actually don't know because I haven't done staining myself. I've looked at prepared slides that are stained. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to crowdsource this one. I'm going to jump over to the gallery view. If there's somebody here with experience with microscopy, who might be able to give Jack a little bit more insight on doing that, I'm going to suggest wave your hand at me right now, and we're going to bring you on the screen. And we don't know. But that would be a really good thing to, I would investigate that by doing some web searches. That's the sort of thing that you could probably find some really useful tutorials on online. If you do some cool staining of things and see some cool stuff, I'd love to see your the sketch notes and journal notes that you take about that.
Somebody asked what the names of the two stains are. One is methane blue stain, which is kind of like crumbly stuff, and the other one is eosin Y stain, eosin EOSIN, and that's like a powder.
All right. Let me just take a look in here, and let's see. Oh, Ivea, you're right. Janai, who's our sort of plankton expert, will know tons of stuff about that. If you send me an email with that question, we will forward it on to our plankton expert, and she may get back to you. And that would be a good way to find out. So we can crowdsource this one too. We actually have in our Nature Journal community and collective here, there is somebody who's got mad skills with microscopes.
So you would probably put your object on the slide and then put the stain on, right? Because you want the stain on the object, right?
I will take the dodge of hard saying, not knowing. I don't know, and if I gave you an answer at this point,
Yes.
I would be talking outside of my expertise. So I will boldly say I don't know, but I think that's a possibility. You might experiment with it and sort of see what seems to work for you. A lot of things, you just put them under the microscope and you don't need a stain. But there are certain sorts of organisms and structures where the stain is really very useful. And there also, it's really interesting in identifying bacteria. There are stains that they will use. Some of the bacteria, it's hard to see characteristics on them because they're small. But some of them will stain different ways and others don't. And so whether they respond to stains, or sometimes it's used in identifying different types of bacteria. So there's different uses for those. But we're going to pass, if you send me an email, we'll pass that on to Janai, and that will be good. Actually, why don't I bring Ivea in on this? You've got some other thoughts.
Sadly, I don't know very much about microscopes myself, but definitely Janai will know, or at least she'll have an idea of where to look. Right now, she says that she's not going to make these like official things yet, but she's planning up to start like the sort of small gatherings on Fridays called Microscopes and Chill. People can do that together. So right now she's sort of just like getting it started, but she said that she'll probably make a bigger community announcements once she begins to feel in her groove about it. Another thing is that she does things on Twitch TV sometimes. I put the link already in the chat, but I think I have it again here. And so what you do is you can join her on I think sometimes it's Mondays and Thursday nights. and she'll do demonstrations, and you can look through her microscope and just experience the magic with her. But she's very approachable. So
She's really cool. So she did a field trip for the Nature Journal Club where she brought us out to this research station out on stilts above San Francisco Bay, and we all threw plankton nets in the water. And do you have any of your notes from that?
I was just getting them.
Check this out.
These are my ending notes. I painted the page this color so that I could try to just get like, sorry about my throat. It's a little bit like going to outer space when you look at the stuff through her microscope.
That's cool.
And what she does is that she looks through it at different refractive rates, so like different lights. So sometimes you get a background that's a bit more like white or gray like this. Then she'll turn on, I think it's called dark scope. I'm not sure what, but she turns on so that it goes dark, because then you can see certain illuminations differently than you'd be able to with this. And then she has the special sort of lens that she kind of worked out herself that makes certain other things glow. It's almost like a purple sort of light, and then things will glint in different ways. I wish I could remember what all of these are called. But, oh yeah, we have some fun ones here. Looks like somebody from Alien. And I think that one of these was called the Teletubby. Plus, I think that one of Jack's favorites is in here, the water bears. But I'm not sure exactly where I put the water bears. But yeah, highly recommend. She and a group of us also were looking at plant pollen through her microscope. And another point, we were looking through ashes from last year's fires through her microscope. And when she used the special lens where things were able to bounce off, then we could see certain things differently that lit up on it. And she says that different chemicals will light up. I'm sorry, I'm not making a lot of sense. Let me see if I can find some of my more recent notes so I can see what that light is called again.
Was that sort of a diffraction filter?
Possibly. I'm just gonna check. I'm gonna check.
So the when that gets going, we'll have announcements of that on the Nature Journal Club community calendar. So that'll be really fun. So shoot me an email, Jack, and we will try to get you in touch with a microscope specialist.
And we also have a lot of crane flies. Now that I know what they're called, we have a lot of the crane flies around here, so I'll keep watching them a little closer than I thought they were mosquitoes, so I didn't really watch them very closely. But now that I know what they are, I'll see what how they, like, now that I know how to tell if they're male or female.
Yeah.
So I'll do some more pages on that. And I
think you can see those little vestigial hind wings, little halteres. That's really fun to look for.
And I did actually look at pollen water under my microscope. And let me see if I can find it. I figured out after looking at that that every speck of pollen, according to my microscope, has a line through it, like a black line. So,
ooh, let me remove my spotlight here. Oh, look at this.
They look like eyes.
Look at this. Oh, wow.
Interesting.
So this is pollen that was floating on the surface of the water of the bird bath. It reminds me of candy corn. And so notice that Jack's got the location where the pollen was collected. And actually different kinds of pollen will have different shapes. So you can actually collect pollen from different types of plants, suspend them in water, and then look at their shapes. I'll tell you my favorite pollen shape
is if you can find some pine pollen and look at that under a microscope, it has a very particular shape that is funny.
Does it look like a pine needle?
It does not look like a pine needle. It looks like a famous animated character. A famous animated character. So that's, yeah, different types of plants have different shaped pollen. I wonder what type that was that has that little dark line through it. That's cool. And I also think it's really cool that you are running around in the backyard collecting pollen off the surface of ponds and bird baths and bringing that inside and looking at it under your nature, in your nature journal and with your microscopes. That's terrific.
And the spider picture, you know, the jumping spider I sent you?
Yes.
That one is under a microscope.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, really well observed shape on that. Let's bring Avea back in, and
I found my notes on that special thing that she uses. What she uses is polarized lenses. She says that she kind of layers two, and what it does is it's something called birefringence that it highlights, and I think that it's a lot like, I'm not sure if it's like similar to the bioluminescence or not, but it makes certain things sparkle, as she would put it. So that's how she does it.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, I hope that she does that series. That would be really fun. That would be really fun to do. Yeah, looking through pond water is like going on a safari. Look at just they will change seasonally. There are all these cool surprises. Yeah, it's a ton of fun. There are having a plankton net to consolidate plankton really helps to be able to look at, because you would just take a scoop of pond water and you look through it, you'll be like, hey, there's nobody here. But if you have a plankton net, it filters it, you can put it through a whole bunch of water, and then you get this jar that's just packed with all these different types of critters. That's really fun to do. All right.
Thank you.
You bet. Yeah, I think it would be neat to kind of get us geeking out with microscopes. I'd be totally down with that. Let me take a look again at the gallery view, see if there's, there was, somebody had their hand raised and we're going to go to next, but I no longer see them on the call. They might have had to drop off.
It was me, no worries. It was just me.
I'm not going to say which cartoon character, because no spoilers here. You have to, I'm hoping that somebody will be then motivated to put some pollen from a pine under a microscope. And it's really cool. It's really cool. So then you're going to have your favorite kind of pollen. And the electron microscope pictures of pollen, there are some crazy pictures. So if you do just a Google search for electron microscope pictures of pollen, just all these amazing textures. That's big fun, big fun. I am about to turn off the recording, and then anybody who wants to share something who doesn't feel comfortable being recorded will be able to do so. I want to thank everybody for being here, and I am really grateful to this community. I hope you had fun today, got some inspiration looking through each other's journals, and some strategies to help you with Coyote and Raccoon.